Would you guys say we're right about Bitcoin?
Of course.
Yes. I'd say
It
so.
seems like that. And I think that's kind of where we're going to start the show today, is talking about the newly formed 21 Capital with Jack Mallers, Howard Lutnick, and the team from Tether. We'll talk about that a little bit. We're going to get to strategy, GameStop, Bitcoin, ETFs, which one makes the most sense for people to be holding on to right now, and kind of our strategies that we're using. And then see where that leads, and then get to the Q&A. So let's begin. Let's get to 21 Capital. What kind of details you got for us, Forrest?
Well, I've scrubbed through the SEC filing, which it's basically an investor presentation. So it outlines the entire business plan, the ownership, who they're selling to, and yeah, the business plan really is probably the most important part of it. Ownership is also a very interesting one as well. I mean, maybe I should share my screen here and we can take a look.
Sure.
What do you guys want to go over first? Ownership or their business plan?
Let's start with ownership.
Okay. That's what I have up now.
Yep.
Okay. So right here we have the I'm sorry, I did not have the ownership up. There it is. Okay. So this is pre-convert. So they're basically running the strategy playbook with issuing debt and will be buying future Bitcoin. But to begin with, this company is being funded with 42,000 Bitcoin from the new owners of the stock. So that's how they gain their ownership, is by investing that seed Bitcoin, basically. So right here, we can see Tether and Bitfinex are the two biggest shareholders. And what's interesting about that is they are actually both owned by the same parent company, which I think is called Infinex. So they have, between the two of them, they have 70% of the voting rights. So this is a Tether company, or a Tether parent company. And 30% voting ownership goes to SoftBank, which is a massive investment firm within Japan. And what's really interesting about this, in my opinion, is there's some people that are talking about how Tether has been pushed out of the US in a lot of ways with their stablecoin business, and with Bitfinex as well, which is their exchange business. So in this way, they're kind of backdooring themselves in with a new business that is running off the strategy playbook, but is a US entity, and will get them foothold within the US financial markets. And maybe they can wiggle that into their other businesses as well. So this is a way for them to kind of, just get introduced to the US market that they've been pushed out of because of their main business. So right now, what people are wondering about, I would say most, is when you buy SEP or CEP, which is the stock ticker for the reverse, or for the merger, the SPAC merger. What are they buying? Are they buying that and that's going to turn into ticker symbol XXI? Is that all of the ownership? What is that exactly? And what you see here is there's actually 2.9% of the public of the ownership, not of the voting shares, but the actual stock ownership, is to the SPAC shareholders. So if you're buying into CEP, you're buying into only 2.9% of the float of all of the shares after the SPAC happens. So that's why the market cap might seem low. If you look at outstanding shares of the CEP stock ticker, you might say, well, there's going to be 42,000 Bitcoin on here. If you look at the market cap of CEP, it's tiny compared to that. So there's this huge multiple, or like it's incredibly undervalued, which is just not the case, because you have to factor in what happens after the SPAC and how many shares there will be for that. And because they're running the Saylor playbook, if you look at post-convert, there's even going to be even more, because they're selling $385 million worth of convertible notes, which on a fully diluted outlook, it means there's a ton more shares and a lot more shareholders because of that. So that is really kind of goes over most of the ownership.
Forrest, could you just say, because I think I missed this part, and I've heard a couple of people say it now, but so the two companies are who, and owned by the parent company? Is it Tether and Bitfinex?
Yeah. So Tether and Bitfinex are both owned by the same company. I'm just going to look up the actual name so I have the full name, because this is new to me too. But the parent company is iFinex, which is based out of the British Virgin Isles. Also, the other thing too is this SEC, or this company, is based out of the Cayman Islands as well, which
Nice.
isn't really that surprising because it's just a tax shelter place to do that. But you know, there might be, yeah, I don't know. It just starts to look a little fishy. It's not completely out of the normal, but I don't know. You know, starts to get a little sketchy in my opinion.
So just to clarify that, you said that 2.9% of the, because right now, if you logged into like your stock account and you're looking for 21 Capital, it would be under CEP, like Cantor Enterprise Partners or something like that.
Yeah.
And that share that you're buying is only 2.9% of like the company that it's about to be merged into. Is that correct?
So the entire amount of outstanding CEP stock is 2.9% of the company after merge.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, because I saw that people were doing math on it. They're like, this thing's way undervalued because the 42 Bitcoin times this should have like a floor of this, but it's only selling for this much of a market cap. But that's not true. That would be the disconnect there, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And that's just not understanding how SPAC mergers work. But yeah, it's going to look a lot different, and that's why like a lot of people are wondering like, oh, should I get into this now? Should I wait? It's like there's so much volatility even within the SPAC, and that's because of low liquidity. There's such little amount of shares to go around, and there's a huge amount of demand, and there's just a huge amount of volatility within that. So like if you look at the buy and sell price, they're going to be just crazy different because of that low amount of liquidity. So there's a really big spread between bid and ask. But I think people are actually trading this. If you look at the charts, it looks to me like people are trading this already because of that huge amount of volatility. But you have to contend with the bid and ask spread, which is your entrance and exit out of a position, which is not what you want for a trading vehicle, but you do want volatility, and that's what people are trading here. But as far as like when you would want to buy this, if you wanted to, like if everything looked kosher to you, it's so hard to know because like we don't really know what's going on right now. Like there's so much information like we don't have.
Yeah.
And then at the SPAC, we don't know what this thing's going to do either. Like if you look at the last Bitcoin focused, and they really marketed themselves as like, we're going to do the treasure or the Bitcoin treasury strategy. We're going to do convertible bonds, and we're a Bitcoin only business. And I'm talking about Fold. They did a SPAC. They SPAC'd from ticker symbol EMD to FLD, and their price pre-SPAC was like $11 to $13, and then it immediately dropped after SPAC, and it went all the way into the $2 range. It's back up at like $4. So we have no idea what's going to happen with this one as well.
Could you kind of explain SPAC for me and everybody else?
Yeah, so it's a special acquisition or special purpose acquisition company. So CEP starts out as a company, which is they're called a blank check company. So somebody funds and creates a LLC. Cantor Fitzgerald in this case did that, and they give them a blank check or a huge amount of money, and they say, go find a business to buy or to invest in heavily. And because you're already a public company, when you invest in that, that's going to become a bigger company than you just as a blank check company. And then we can change the ticker symbol, we can change the ownership over so that you're basically transforming into this company that you just invested in. And then the reason to do that is because it's very difficult to take companies public, but it's fairly easy to take one of these blank check companies public, and then you're working around you're spending a lot of less fees doing a SPAC than a traditional IPO or anything like that. That's the reason people do SPACs.
Interesting. There's a comment here from Response Audio that says, Jack displayed the starting amount of Bitcoin per share on a stream a couple nights ago. I did a quick convert and it was something like $11 US. That's kind of what I've heard too, that the MNAV right now is about 3 to 4. It's kind of been going between $30 and $40.
Yeah.
Based on the small ownership that it has today, based on, the percentage of the calculation here. Does that sound right?
Yes, that's about right. Yeah, it's gone. I think all the way up to like 4, and yeah, it's trading a little bit below that. And if you look at reference of MSTR, they are around 2. So it, yeah, again, that's really what you're going to want to compare against. And I'll share my screen again here, and we'll go into the business model. And one of the specific slides that really reached out to me was this one here. And they're directly comparing themselves to strategy, and across these what is it, 6 metrics, they're claiming to be superior compared to strategy. Whether that's true is up for debate. This is just their guidance, their opinion, and they claim to be better on all these metrics that will allow them to acquire more Bitcoin over time, Bitcoin per share. And the other abbreviation, which is BRR, which is, I can't remember, but Jack's talked about it a couple times. Oh, Rajat just dropped off.
Like the printer go burr?
Yeah, printer go burr. Yeah, BRR was the other metric. But to me, this seems, and I posted a tweet about this. I feel like this is a little disingenuous. I feel like this is not what we've seen from other Bitcoin treasury companies. They've really come out in the past. These companies have come out and really applauded what Saylor's done. And Jack has too, to a degree, but they've said, oh, we're going to run this strategy. We're going to do the best we can and blah, blah, blah. But here, 21 is saying, this is what strategy's done. They've been very successful with it. We're going to do it better than them. It's kind of like a little bit of a different footing that they're placing themselves on compared to what we've seen with treasury companies in the past.
So do we want to go through this quickly and just like explain what that means? Like how would strategy be 3/4 of full for Bitcoin exposure?
So pure play, because they have an operating business. So they have
Gotcha.
a business intelligence. But if you look at this sliver, in my opinion, should be way smaller because their operating business is 1 billion, is basically worth $1 billion, and their market cap is 90 billion, or near 100 billion. If it was 100 billion, that's 1% of their business is not a pure play Bitcoin exposure. So that, again, seems disingenuous to me, in my opinion.
So on that note, though, would you rather hold a company that's strictly a Bitcoin holding company, or would you rather have like operations in there as well? I know it's not like a huge amount, but like, wouldn't you want some sort of actual cash flow coming in that you can also convert into Bitcoin? And I don't know. Like, what do you guys think about that?
I don't think you do. If you're putting time, energy, and effort towards making that cash flow, you could just direct that to Bitcoin.
Yeah, kind of like the hurdle rate within Bitcoin right now is 60%. So unless like the business that they're operating in is generating a 60% return on it, why not just put that all into Bitcoin? Is that kind of the idea? I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of the idea. I mean, people have talked about like spinning off the business intelligence side of strategy, and like that could just be its own business. And then they could just focus on this Bitcoin strategy company, which would just be acquiring more Bitcoin. I don't know if it really makes that much of a difference because even internally within their business, it's almost treated as separate. Like they have like 1,000 employees for business intelligence, and they have really nothing to do with the treasury side of the company, which operates almost independently and is a much larger percentage. But I don't think it really deters from it. It's just something to calculate into the total valuation of the shares and stocks that you're buying. I'm not sure it detracts or adds to it really that much, in my opinion.
It's kind of tough because when I'm thinking through this, like I actually talked to somebody at Strategy a couple months ago now. It was one of their business development guys or something, and he was just kind of telling me about the business. He was sitting in the Strategy office. I think it's in New York, right?
Virginia.
But he basically said like the majority of employees here, something that they're trying to do is educate their employees about Bitcoin, because the majority of Bitcoin employees who are working for Strategy have no idea what Bitcoin is. Like they've heard of it. Obviously they know it's a big component of the business and why it's become what it is, but they're not Bitcoiners. They're just guys who build software.
That's actually crazy to me. Like if you're working at a company like MicroStrategy or Strategy and you don't understand Bitcoin, what are you doing?
Well, they were there before they became a Bitcoin company, right?
Yeah, but even after, right? It's been 4 years. There's so
Oh,
much
I agree.
information out there. You're a computer programmer. You have this background. I think you should put in the effort to learn about what Bitcoin is. I mean, I'm not saying what you're saying is absolutely right. There's probably still going to be people at some point who don't understand it, but why are they working there?
And they're probably getting stock-based compensation to some degree as well. And like that stock is directly tied to
Yeah.
Bitcoin. You would think they would really start to care about it. But you know what Rajat just said about like it's crazy that they don't understand Bitcoin after 4 years. That's how I feel about everybody. But yes, it's especially true for somebody that works within a Bitcoin treasury company.
Well, that's kind of what I was going to say is like, if you have a company that's 100% focused on Bitcoin and that's it, like if that's all your employees are doing is just immersing themselves in Bitcoin and trying to figure out different strategies, different ways to grow Bitcoin per share, I feel like that's a little bit preferred as opposed to like a software company who's just holding Bitcoin. Obviously, they have a good team there. They've done some really incredible things. But it does seem to me like if you're not 100% focused on growing the Bitcoin treasury, then what are you doing?
Yeah. And I will say there's there's all the technology behind Bitcoin, and you would think people working within business intelligence would be interested in that side of it, but a lot of them are not interested in the ideas of around it being money because they're not interested in money. So there has to be a crossover. I think that a lot of people probably don't have, right? A lot of people are just not interested in what makes good money and why it matters and all of this, right? So yeah.
Here's a comment from Lance saying, I'm a software engineer working on a team of 30 where only 2 of us understand Bitcoin.
There you go. There you go.
Kind of crazy.
Pretty crazy.
So do you guys have anything else you want to touch on specifically in regards to 21 Capital? Because there are a couple comments here that I think we should address kind of while we're on this topic here.
I think maybe let's just take one quick look again at this one here. This is more of what their actual plan to do to make a business or to acquire Bitcoin. And then we have basically the full picture here. So their main goal is to accumulate Bitcoin, acquire it, hold it, issue debt and equities to buy more Bitcoin. So selling their stock and taking on corporate debt, which they can do so at way better rates than you and I could. But they also plan to create modular education, branded video content, and go-to partner for conferences and such. And I imagine this will be geared towards like corporations and large players and helping other corporations take on Bitcoin. And then within that, Bitcoin related financial and advisory services, probably again, not like what all of us do with coaching one-on-one, but more of like helping banks understand it and other businesses understand it. And then offering Bitcoin related debt and equity structured products. To me, that would be like what Strategy's doing with their STRK and STRF. And then Bitcoin related lending, probably facilitating lending, either holding Bitcoin for people and finding partners that want to borrow it and then earning a spread from it, kind of like a service like what Ledin is doing. That's my interpretation of what business they plan to build and how they plan to acquire more Bitcoin into the future.
I mean, just kind of on that note, like with the education branding and stuff, like what better of a guy than Jack Mallers to do that?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I can't think of anybody else. I mean, I don't know if it was on Maple Bitcoin or somewhere else, but there's a question that somebody asked is like, if you had one Bitcoiner to go on Joe Rogan and explain Bitcoin to the masses, and a lot of people thought that Jack Mallers should be that guy.
I think Maple Bitcoin should be on Joe Rogan.
Yeah, that would be great.
One day. I guess there's enough seats in Rogan's studio, for the Maple Bitcoin crew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have a party in there.
Okay, so let's I had something I wanted to mention here, but I think that's a good place to start. What do you think about CEP trade, buy, hodl, sell? What are you guys doing right now for it?
I bought some and I let it run up like crazy. I bought it in the 20s, sold it in the 30s. It's getting a little overvalued for how much initial risk there is. And maybe in the future, I'll buy back in more. But again, what their plan is to buy Bitcoin for you and acquire Bitcoin into the future. And I think every business will eventually start to do this. So will they be able to front run it sufficiently? Maybe. But also, I think that MSTR wins from 21 implementing their strategy because they're going to apply pressure to the Bitcoin market, and MSTR holds the most amount of Bitcoin. So I would be selling if I was to buy more 21. I would be probably selling MSTR to do so, which in my eyes, in this moment, with the amount of risk and the amount of nuance and everything that's happening with the SPAC, it doesn't make sense to me to seriously allocate to this beyond a trade wait and see kind of thing. I'm okay being late to this. I'm okay being late to it because we're so early to everything with this.
It would be very similar for me, like what you said there, Forrest. I would have to sell either Bitcoin or MicroStrategy to accumulate shares. And I don't want to do that. I think MicroStrategy is so far ahead. And even if 21 does get ahead of MicroStrategy in terms of Bitcoin, MicroStrategy's Bitcoin is going to appreciate massively. And I don't even think that's possible. First of all, I don't think that 21 can actually get to more Bitcoin than MicroStrategy. Maybe they'll get to like 500,000, but at that point, MicroStrategy might be at 1 million.
Totally.
Yeah, and that's kind of like the big benefit. And I think this is applicable to companies, countries, individuals. This is the whole thing at play. Like everybody that follows Saylor now is going to make strategy more valuable because of that. That's the benefit to being first here. And it was probably like Saylor took a lot of shit. He took a lot of flack from people about being that early, but it's just going to be amazing to see play out now and the benefit of being early there. From my perspective, I haven't bought any CEP yet. I do plan on buying some just because I love the whole ecosystem here. I love Jack Mallers. I like Fitzgerald, Tether. I think that there's a lot of promise in this. I think if they are going that road of like trying to reach the masses, I think that Jack is the guy to do that. I want to see the dust settle a little bit first. I don't know enough, to know if it's fairly valued or not. I don't think it's 3x. I'd rather just hold strategy right now. And I'm in the same boat as Forrest. If I do, and when I do end up buying some 21 Capital, I'll trade some of my strategy shares for it. But I think both are great plays.
Yeah, and one thing I'll just mention here too. You mentioned who's playing in this with this 21, or who's like part of it. Think about the amount of capital that SoftBank would like to put into a high growth company like this. They've invested huge amount of capital, all in very, very tech focused, high growth companies. They've been burned a few times, but they've also done extremely well overall and in specific holdings. Same with Tether. They have a war chest of Bitcoin and they have a serious money-making machine with their stablecoin issuing company. Bitfinex is also probably very profitable. I don't know the ins and outs of that one specifically, but I can just imagine that there is a lot of capital and a lot of investors beyond just the public that they could source money from to do this strategy and have this investment vehicle for those investors.
Yeah, Tether. I mean, when I think about Tether and Strike, they're two companies that really stand out in terms of really growing quickly on a very large scale with not a whole lot of employees. And I think that that's going to be the future of commerce, honestly. And if they kind of have that puzzle piece figured out, I think that they're going to do extremely well with whatever venture they pursue. And having Bitcoin as their foundation, I think, is going to be pretty solid in the future. It also goes to show, how all these resources combined, Jack Mallers, Strike, Fitzgerald, Tether, they got 42,000 Bitcoin together. And that's like 1/10 of what strategy has right now.
Yeah. Less than
1/10.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing. It's amazing. But yeah, I think they'll be very rapid. And if you look at the Bitcoin per share and like Bitcoin yield measurements that were popularized by MSTR, I imagine 21 will probably outperform MSTR with those metrics because they're like a startup at this point. So those metrics are going to just move like crazy compared to this giant of strategy, because it's again the stock to flow ratio. The stock of Bitcoin that MSTR has at this point is so high that the percentage change will be low compared to 21, which is only starting with 42, which is again less than 10%. So those metrics are going to look really good, and those are the metrics that they're talking about using. So, which is another paradigm shift, right? Those metrics are still not appreciated within any sort of field of TradFi. Any TradFi people think, oh, that's ridiculous. Bitcoin per share, who cares? I care about the price of those shares, right? So I think that's going to be a little bit of a domino maybe for other. I think again, MSTR was a domino, Semler, Metaplanet. These were all dominoes beginning to fall, and this is just the next one to fall. And I would actually say it's a fairly large one. It's a fairly big domino.
What's your thoughts, Rajat, on you're a finance guy. What do you think of the Bitcoin per share? Is that valid? Is it going to be something that everybody's going to be using in the future?
I'm sure it is. I mean, if a company's, I think it only applies to companies who have the majority of their operations um, aimed at Bitcoin, aimed at accumulating Bitcoin. But then other companies may in the future start doing the same thing. But let's say, for example, if Microsoft starts accumulating Bitcoin, compared to their business, the amount of Bitcoin that they have is going to be so small. So maybe that wouldn't be something that they're going to do, because they're probably going to be able to get to like what 1%, 2% of their company's value in Bitcoin, maybe 5%. But I don't know if that's relevant for everyone. I think it's something that basically Michael Saylor created on its own, right?
Mhm.
The Bitcoin per share metric. It's not real. I mean,
But don't you
this
think
isn't.
that's going to be like what everybody wants in the future is like Bitcoin? Like, isn't that going to be the measuring stick for every company in the future? That's kind of how I see it. I don't know.
Yeah, but I don't think that it's going to be measured in Bitcoin per share. I think the shares are just going to be valued in Bitcoin.
Right. All right. Yeah. So
That's
this is
fair.
like an intermediate measurement that is
Yeah.
adapted to it. Yeah. And I think that companies of strength will use this metric of Bitcoin strength and Bitcoin growth. But like Rajat said, like if Apple was to buy Bitcoin all of a sudden, their Bitcoin per share would look so embarrassing, and it actually wouldn't be a good metric to them. Right. Like
Yeah.
investors would be like, oh, that sucks. I'll just buy MSTR instead, like Bitcoin centered ones. Right. So they wouldn't adopt that until it's an impressive metric.
Unless they do a crazy reverse split or something.
Yeah,
I think they have like 16 billion shares outstanding, something crazy like that.
yeah, something like that. Yeah, huge amount.
So, I mean, just thinking forward, then, like that's kind of a genius strategy if Saylor, coined that phrase Bitcoin per share. And if we're right in the meantime, that this is going to be kind of the bridge between where we are and where we're going to, and that's how, they're promoting that, they are going to make the other companies look foolish in that sense.
Yeah, they already
Pretty
have,
smart.
in my opinion. You look at even the price appreciation of the shares, like it's crazy, and the amount of action that's going on within the options market and the equity market of strategy, like people, how can people ignore this still? Like they are looking foolish. You're looking foolish for ignoring Bitcoin if you're in TradFi. Like you're totally looking foolish at this point, in my opinion. These people still have their heads in the sand. They still think, oh, it's just pet rock, it's a Ponzi scheme, it's a whatever. But looking in on them, you just realize, oh wow, these people are missing the boat like crazy by not understanding this asset yet.
It's
Yeah,
wild.
based on the comment that for George just highlighted there, I don't think the age should matter. There was a guy on X who he's like 65 years old. He was saying how, so I basically like got into a little bit of an argument with him. I was asking him to debate me. He's like 65 years old. I'm 32, half his age, and I'd probably destroy him in a debate regarding Bitcoin. So I don't think age really matters. It's all about what you've dedicated your time to. So I think Fong, he understands Bitcoin very well, and that's
Mhm.
perfectly fine. But I would say that Jack, because he grew up with the internet, because he grew up with video games, he probably understands the value of digital savings a lot more than even if somebody went to MIT, even if somebody went to Harvard, even if somebody has a great background in finance. Jack probably understands the value of Bitcoin much more in depth.
Yeah.
That's going to be the new age. Just like BPS replaced EPS, time in Bitcoin is going to replace age.
Wow.
TIB. That'll be the new metric.
Yeah,
Time in Bitcoin. I like that.
I like that too.
My follow-up question to this is I'm curious what you guys think about Jack running Strike and also running this.
Well, if you look at the richest man in the world runs SpaceX, CEO of SpaceX. He's the shadow CEO of X, and he's the CEO of Tesla. And those companies all perform very well. I mean, yeah, you can look at short-term volatility with Tesla, but it's been like no other American car company has started up and been as successful as Tesla. I mean, these are legacy companies they're competing against with entrenched markets. So it's quite amazing actually what Tesla's been able to do, and SpaceX as well seems to be performing really well. So it's entirely possible. And the thing is CEOs are really there within a structured company to like deal with very specific issues within the company, and they're the most important issues. But it's not like they clock in 9 to 5 at every single business. They come for the meetings that they're supposed to be there for, and that's important for them. They make the key decisions, but they can split their time up between other businesses if they needed to.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it too. That's a great point. Just a couple things here. We're already half an hour into this somehow. Time flies on the Maple Bitcoin live streams. But just a couple reminders here. Number one, let us know. We've been kind of chatting in the private chat here. Let us know if you can hear us and see us okay, and if there's any sort of lag from people, because it's kind of hard to tell on our end. So just, if you don't mind, leave a quick comment if it's good, if it's laggy, whatever that is. The second point here, don't forget to press the like button. It helps this stream circulate a lot faster and help grow the Bitcoin network, which is what we want, to help get this information in front of more people. And finally, that QR code right beside Forrest's head. We're going to have the wallet opened here in just a sec. I haven't even had time to open it up yet. But we do want to say thank you to everybody who has been sending in some sats for the channel here through the last couple of weeks on the videos we've been sharing and stuff. So, we got a couple here. Look at that. We got 8,888 sat zap. Love that. We got 1,111 from Sketchy Trader. Cheers, boys. And we got 8,888 again. Maple Bitcoin from Mark Carney.
Oh, wow.
And then just one that just came in, 1,001 sats. Happy Friday, fellow Bitcoiners. So thank you, everybody. That's a good start to the day.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks
and
guys
super
for sending
chat.
that.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, let's skip. This is what you get when you send a super chat. You get to skip the line. So I don't know what that is. 100 something.
Yeah, I don't know either.
I think it's rupees.
Rupees, is that? Yeah.
So it says, I've got small stakes in US stocks and I'm tempted to cash out, all to increase my Bitcoin stash, but it is bad for diversification. What shall I